One starry night, a guy found himself deep in thought, pondering all sorts of personal questions. His reflections centered on work-life balance, the relentless grind of daily overtime, and a sense of gratitude for being able to work from home. He was currently inside a local convenience store. His aim was to purchase a favorite drink he enjoyed. Despite being a fully fledged adult, his appearance, thanks to his genetics, made him look remarkably like a kid. He was quite pleased because the drink he desired was alcoholic, and he really needed it after a long day of work. However, the cashier refused to sell it to him for that very reason, its alcohol content. He genuinely didn't understand what the problem was with his purchase. With an audibly annoyed tone, she stated firmly that they didn't sell alcohol to minors. He couldn't grasp why she perceived him as a minor, especially since he looked like a child, not even a teenager, but distinctly a kid. She then elaborated that they'd encountered many instances of minors fabricating their ages to acquire alcohol. He conceded it was a shame, but he was in no mood to argue and simply wanted to buy his drink. Subsequently, she demanded his ID, her expression remaining visibly gloomy. He began to retrieve it, grumbling aloud about having successfully bought an alcoholic drink just 2 days prior. But while searching through his wallet, a realization dawned on him. He had forgotten his ID at work, most likely. He then explicitly stated he was 27 years old, presenting his work ID as proof, and reiterated that he'd worked overtime today, which was precisely why he needed the alcohol. He also mentioned being a frequent customer at the store, but she paid no mind and proceeded to call the police. To avoid any further trouble, he simply decided to leave. He spent the entire walk home cursing profusely, frustrated that he hadn't managed to get the alcohol he so sorely needed. All this trouble was entirely because of his height and appearance. He complained that this had been his life's constant struggle. His height and youthful looks had perpetually felt like a curse. Standing at only 165 centimeters tall and possessing a cute face had always placed limitations on his life experiences. He was always acutely aware that he looked like a child. This was true back when he was in high school. It was true when he was enlisting in the military. And even during routine work checkups, everyone consistently made fun of him for his height. Indeed, because of his height, his life had always been difficult. Even when he went shopping for clothes, the employees frequently recommended children's clothing to him. In restaurants, staff often presented him with the children's meal instead of the adult dish he had ordered. And there was no need to explain how he failed to excel in sports due to his stature. His friends always made him the target of their jokes because of his height. But the worst part of it all was that he was consistently overlooked by girls, simply because he was too short. It almost seemed as though these girls deliberately aimed to make him feel small. All these persistent thoughts invariably made him incredibly mad. When he finally arrived home, he meticulously set up his top-tier gaming setup and then prepared himself for some serious gameplay. His plan was simply to play Dota or League of Legends, games that could even run on a, quote, toaster. He genuinely enjoyed this pastime, but then he found himself complaining about the smell coming from his neighbor's apartment, a constant smoke odor that deeply annoyed him. He opened his window, hoping the smell would dissipate, but it was no use. His neighbor smoked an enormous amount. He angrily wished that the person responsible for the smoke would meet its creator due to a malignant neoplasm. He then decided he absolutely had to go and speak with his mysterious neighbor about the issue that was infuriating him every single night. He gathered his courage, determined to have a polite conversation with the mysterious neighbor, knowing he needed to approach the situation with civility. He was visibly shaking as his hand reached for the doorbell. But then something unexpected happened. A man suddenly flew out of the apartment as if he had been powerfully thrown by someone incredibly strong. The person responsible for the act shouted at him, warning him that he'd be in the other world if he ever returned. The man lay shaking on the ground in evident pain, stating that the mysterious person inside was incredibly strong. Even some concrete from the wall had fallen due to the impact of the blow. The protagonist was visibly scared, as this looked like something out of another world. He wondered if the man on the ground had actually fought a bear. He had no idea what had just transpired, and questioned whether it was truly safe to go over there and ask his neighbor about their smoking habits. After contemplating the situation for a while, and perhaps those birds in the vicinity told him in their bird language that he absolutely should not proceed, he ultimately decided that he couldn't give up now. He reasoned that if he didn't address it now, he might die of a malignant neoplasm anyway, so he had to ask them to stop, even if it meant accelerating his disconnection from life by being, quote, torn apart by a bear. So he arrived prepared with a gift for that person, the most expensive prime beef, hoping to appease the, quote, beast's desire for flesh and blood. He then gathered all his guts once more and pressed the doorbell. The person behind the door inquired, "Who is it?" He replied that he had brought a gift. Then the door opened, and he greeted the person standing there. That person snatched the gift faster than lightning and then slammed the door shut in his face, leaving him standing alone outside. He then tried to speak to the closed door, realizing the neighbor hadn't paid any attention to the tallest adult of the world. Seeing that his attempt had failed, he proceeded to file a complaint with the maintenance office and also waited for that impolite person to emerge from the apartment. But everything failed. That pervasive smoke became a daily problem, so much so that he could not sleep at all. After a week, the smoke consistently woke him in the middle of his beautiful dreams of being 170 centimeters tall and, for once in his life, being ugly. This deeply annoyed him. At 11:28 p.m., when he should have been fast asleep, the smoke served as his early alarm clock. Even if he covered his nose with papers, he could still smell the smoke. He was already completely fed up with the situation, so much so that he could almost see Ella Parka in his mind's eye, a sign of his extreme frustration. Then, he finally lost his temper. He simply could not continue living like this. He then decided to go to the neighbor's house, and this time, he would get what he wanted. He had bought this house with his entire fortune, and he would live under his own terms. So, for the third time, he gathered all his courage, absolutely determined to make his voice heard. The scene then showed a person who was actively smoking and simultaneously doing pull-ups. She was a notably strong woman. But then the doorbell rang. She immediately stopped her workout, her demeanor filled with rage. The protagonist waited for her to emerge from her hideout. He thought to himself that he needed to be tough and reminded himself that he was the victim in this situation, so he had no reason to be afraid. Then the door opened. The woman, with an irritated tone, asked who the brick was that dared to interrupt her while she was working out. He instantly blushed. She was clad in nothing but a large towel wrapped around her. This made him incredibly nervous, causing him to tremble noticeably. Thinking she looked truly scary, he instinctively stated that he was scared. It felt like a puppy being stared down by a wolf. She then asked if he wasn't going to answer her questions, pressing him on why he wouldn't respond. He began to explain that he was her neighbor, desperately trying not to focus on her imposing presence. She took another step forward, purposefully moving closer to him, and asked him to proceed, by which point he was completely red in the face. He was extremely nervous at that moment, faced with such a commanding figure right in front of him. She then asked if he couldn't hear her, and demanded to know why he was there. He attempted to speak, and finally told her that he couldn't bear it anymore. And then he screamed at her, "Stop smoking!" Everything went silent for a second. He then snatched the cigar from her hand, simultaneously trying to shield himself, convinced she was about to unalive him. And she let out a small laugh. She then stated that she was glad he had come because she was starting to get annoyed. As she pulled out another pack of cigarettes, she asked if the one who had been yapping about her, smoking, was really him. She then asked what he was going to do if she kept smoking. He explained that the smoke always found its way into his room, and if she kept smoking, then she simply stared at him while lighting another cigarette, and then exhaled the smoke directly into his face. He coughed, and she then said that she smoked and challenged him to explain what he was going to do about it, asking what he could even do. After mocking him a little more, she explicitly challenged him to make her stop smoking. She then declared that she was certain he had no guts at all to do that, despite the fact that he had already gathered them 3 times to come here and confront her. She then pointed out that he was short and skinny. She then added that he looked like a kid, which deeply touched a nerve within him. A kid? This was the exact trouble he had been enduring all his life. He then recalled all the problems this had caused him, like having to carry his ID everywhere to prove he wasn't a child, and his so-called friends who acted like they didn't know him after being out, simply because he looked like a kid and they treated him like a toy. He also remembered the time he went for his job interview, and they actually wondered if he had lied about his age just to get the position. They had laughed at him, stating he would never be good at anything solely because of his appearance, or every single time he was overlooked by girls just because he looked like a kid. They would always tell him that he embarrassed them, always advising him to wish for better luck in his next life. This utterly enraged him, all those words he had heard throughout his life. And at this exact moment, it felt like the final drop that made the glass overflow. He then snatched the cigar right out of the woman's hand and demanded to know if she truly believed she could look down on him just because he was short. He then backed her against the wall, asking her if she really had the right to do that. He reminded her that she had asked what he could do about her. He then stated that if she kept smoking, he too would like to know what he could do. Then, by accident, he grazed her arm, and the towel shifted, revealing a glimpse of skin. He then saw it. He turned completely red because he had seen a bit more than intended. This made her angry. He quickly clarified that it was an accident. He then retreated to his apartment and, from his doorway, asked her again to stop smoking, leaving her standing there in the middle of the corridor. His heart was beating at an alarming 100 times per second, convinced he was screwed. He fully believed that the bear he had as a neighbor was going to kill him for sure. But outside, that girl stood in silence, clenching her fist. She then grabbed her towel more securely and blushed, thinking that the man who had just gone into his apartment was a nuisance. She thought to herself that he was surprisingly bold, wondering what this new feeling she was experiencing right now was. Her heart was beating so loudly it felt like it could be heard from anywhere in the world, or at least he thought so. It was definitely a surprising encounter that sparked something new. Hidden nearby, another woman was staring at her. The red-haired woman wondered what on earth was happening, and she pondered how in the world Si-young had become so flustered, questioning if it was because of that guy, our protagonist, and she already had some suspicions about what that could be. Later, in the bustling city, the protagonist was at his job, looking at his phone. He was watching a video of a neighbor being injured as a result of complaints about smoking. This left him scared, wondering what he was going to do about his own situation. Then, he remembered the specific occasion. He questioned why he had reacted that way, recalling how he lost his temper when she called him a kid, and how he perceived her discomfort as if she were Eva. He tried to clear his mind and regain his composure, all while his teammates looked at him, seemingly wondering what the hell is happening to him. He felt anxious because she hadn't smoked since yesterday, leading him to worry that she might be plotting something. He couldn't stop wondering about his next move. Then, the vivid image of the man resembling a karate master, who was effortlessly thrown from the apartment and nearly hurt, flashed into his mind. He recalled seeing the man with seemingly broken legs after the incident. He definitely didn't want to end up like that. He started thinking if there was a way to appease the beast. Then, he remembered something important. Someone had referred to her as the Mapo grizzly bear. He immediately proceeded to search for that name on Toogle, a search engine he considered superior to Google in every aspect. He then paused his search. The screen displayed an image of her, a powerful woman, almost sending a man to God with just her fists. The comments section was filled with users questioning if she was truly a woman, and remarking extensively about her incredible strength. It was then that he fully realized she was his neighbor. He was overwhelmed with fear upon seeing this information. Just then, someone called him. His companion asked him why he was watching such a video. In a different location, his companion commented to the protagonist that he would surely lose to her, even if he used a baseball bat. The protagonist inquired if he knew her, and his companion confirmed that he had attended the same high school with her. He commented that one would need a heavy truck to transport all the people she had sent to the infirmary. The protagonist simply couldn't believe it. He stated that he had only managed to see her up close once. However, everyone who attended high school in Seoul knew her. Her infamous nickname was the Mapo grizzly bear, and her achievements included almost defeating all the neighborhood thugs. She was probably the most formidable person in the entire world. Thanks to her, he was never targeted by bad guys, because she had dealt with them before they could even think of bothering him. He clarified that she wasn't inherently a bad person, but she was incredibly hot-tempered. He advised that as long as he didn't cross her, he would be fine. The protagonist then proceeded to prepare to jump from the building to have a special meeting with the creator, alarming his workmate. His workmate desperately tried to prevent him from doing something so drastic. The protagonist, however, asked him to let go, arguing that this was better than getting seriously hurt on his cute little face. His workmate asked what was wrong with him and urged him to talk about his problems, despite the protagonist still believing that ending it all right away was 1,000 times better than any other option. But his companion firmly told him that it was not better. Also, the protagonist's name is Gang Chan, which is quite curious, almost sounding like a member of a gang. Back at the neighbor's home, a woman was meticulously fixing her nails and asked who that guy was. The strongest woman in the world was working out, stating that she didn't know him and had only just met him yesterday. It was a group of 3 girls. One was doing nail care, another was playing with a Switch 2, which the narrator lamentably couldn't afford, and the strong woman was lifting dumbbells. The nails girl asked if he was the guy who had been bothering her lately, and she confirmed it was him, wondering why he didn't just move if he was so angry about her smoking addiction. She then asked her friends for their opinions on the matter. It was then revealed that her name was Si-young Na, and she was 23 years old. She then stated that she wasn't attracted to skinny boys like him. She preferred strong guys, full of energy, someone who could potentially keep up with her. Then, the nail girl accused her of lying. This made Si-young blush. The nail girl commented that she was a terrible liar, because she had personally witnessed it. She had seen Si-young looking flustered and blushing while awkwardly close to the little protagonist, so she wouldn't believe anything Si-young said about it when she had seen it with her own eyes. It was then revealed that the nail girl's name was Lena. She was Si-young's best friend, and also 23 years old, so the narrator decided to stop calling her the nails girl. Lena then hugged her, asking her to be honest suggesting there could be something between them, but Seyoung insisted Lena was wrong and it wasn't what she thought. The other girl agreed with Seyoung. She put down the Switch 2, which the narrator still couldn't afford, and stated that Seyoung was always obsessed with her muscles. Therefore, there was no way she could ever manage to go out with a guy. This angered Seyoung even more, who demanded to know whose side she was on. It was revealed that this friend of Seyoung's was named Lin Yu, so the narrator would no longer refer to her as Gamer Girl or the other girl. Lin then reminded them that the last time Seyoung tried to help a little kid, the kid cried just by looking at her and wouldn't even hold her hand because he was so scared. Lin emphasized that Seyoung had never held hands with a guy before and had been single for about 23 years, which was also her current age. Seyoung then covered Lin's mouth to silence her, insisting it wasn't true. Lin then claimed that Seyoung was trying to turn that skinny boy into her boyfriend, which made Seyoung's face turn even redder. They then pressed her, wanting to know what was going on. Seyoung stated it was all a misunderstanding, while Lena continued to provoke her. Lena pointed out that Seyoung had nothing on her top when she was with him, implying that if there was truly nothing, she would have been fully dressed. And then Lena suggested that perhaps they were close acquaintances, making a knowing gesture with her hands. Seyoung was deeply offended by this accusation and demanded to know what Lena was talking about. She then kicked both of them out of her apartment, stating that she needed to work out. This made her face blush intensely, unable to control her racing heartbeat. She remembered how that little skinny boy had surprised her against the wall. She started to wonder why her heart raced whenever she thought about him, and she decided to work out even more, hoping it would help her process these feelings. Meanwhile, Lena and Lin wondered who that guy was and why Seyoung was acting so strangely. Lena thought that she had never seen Seyoung act like this before, and she was now 100% certain that something was going on between the two of them. Then, while licking her lips playfully, she wondered if he lived next door. With a curious gaze, she was now quite interested in him. She then considered visiting him. Later, the protagonist arrived home, being extremely careful not to be seen by her. He walked on the tips of his feet. He glanced everywhere to ensure he was safe, and felt relieved that he was alone and safe today. He thanked God that he hadn't run into her today, but he knew he couldn't maintain this indefinitely because she lived next door. He opened his apartment door, thinking about how much he had spent on this place, and now he was living in fear. He wondered what he would do if he couldn't avoid her one of these days. Then, a voice called out to him, asking if he was their neighbor. It was Lena. She asked if they could get to know each other better, and if he had a moment to talk, all while she was licking her lips with a mischievous grin. Later, she was utterly surprised by what she was seeing. She asked if he really lived in that apartment. She looked around, commenting that it was really different from her house, describing it as a rich man's house. The place was filled with all the comic books she had always wanted to read. It boasted a brand new air conditioner, a comfy sofa bed, and the latest video game consoles she had always desired, but couldn't afford because YouTube kept retaining her rightful payments. She was then surprised to see he had a console model that was never available in stores because it was always sold out. Her eyes filled with excitement, exclaiming that this was heaven. She then said that she wished she had the chance to live in a house like this. The protagonist, whose name, Gang Chen, the narrator had not previously written down, thought that she had just mentioned being his next-door neighbor. He then deduced that she must live with that big, strong woman named Seyoung, whom he was so afraid of. While she was examining all his belongings, he thought that the woman in front of him looked like a bubbly girl, and he couldn't imagine her being friends with a grizzly bear like his other neighbor. He wondered why he had let her in if he truly didn't know who she was. He hadn't seen any indication that the intimidating girl had sent her here. He felt worried, pondering her intentions for coming to his apartment. She then put down the manga she had been checking and asked the protagonist if he had been with Seyoung yesterday. This question immediately triggered an alarm within him. She stated that she could overlook the fact that Seyoung was not fully dressed, but she emphatically stated that she had never seen Seyoung act like that. She explained that Seyoung usually, quote, talks with her fist, then her mouth, and had never spoken to a stranger for more than 3 minutes. Lena couldn't believe she had talked to him for so long, and considering that he was a man, she was even blushing. Lena then sat down very close to the protagonist. She then stated that she was curious, and whispered into his ear that she wanted to know more about this man. She then proceeded to say that she had some questions she wanted to ask him about the smoking problem. But first, the protagonist then blushed intensely, because she lay down on his lap, saying that she was tired and wanted to rest. She then asked if that was okay. Time passed, and she fell asleep with the manga resting on her chest. The protagonist, blushing, wondered why she had fallen asleep like that. He knew she was up to something because she lived with that intimidating neighbor, but there was also the possibility that he was simply overthinking it. He really wanted her to wake up right now, because her foot had been touching his leg. Then, the possibility of her trying to accuse him of being a pervert and reporting him entered his mind. However, the possibility that she wasn't doing it on purpose was still a consideration since she was currently sleeping, but it didn't seem accidental, as her feet were touching him quite a bit. He then tried to carefully remove her feet from his leg, attempting not to wake her up. He was nervous, but tried to remain calm, as he wasn't doing anything inappropriate. He then gently took her foot, but then she woke up with a scream. This scared him. She then laughed a little and apologized. She revealed that she had actually woken up a while ago, which surprised the protagonist. She mocked him, saying that his reaction was very funny. She then stated that, thankfully, he didn't seem to be a bad person. This made the protagonist stare at her, wondering what she was taking him for. He thought that she was playing with him, and he found her actions very mischievous. He then asked her if she wasn't putting herself in danger by coming to a stranger's house, even if he was her neighbor. She replied that she didn't do this with just anyone. She moved closer to him, stating that he had a cute face, and was also kind and shy. She then declared that he was totally her type, sitting in front of him with her face close to his. She then leaned even closer and asked him what he thought about her. In his mind, he thought he hadn't expected that, and he turned completely red. He then said, while shaking, that she was pretty and cute, but they had just met. He then observed that she created some distance between them. She said she was kidding and that he was too serious, leaving him wondering what had just happened. Then, their attention was drawn by a noise. They went to investigate what was happening. There, a woman had fallen to the ground, inexplicably holding a strawberry, along with apples, an orange, and a pack of cream buns. She then stated that she was there to get Lena. In the next scene, she was seen eating the cream bun. Lena then asked her if Si-young had sent her, and she confirmed it. Lena expressed surprise, thinking Si-young would have come herself. Lin said that she had told Si-young she was here, adding that Si-young's face turned red when she told her, and then instructed her to come look for Lena. Then, the protagonist interrupted and asked Lin how she had managed to get into his house. She simply stated that the door was open. Then, the protagonist took the bun and sternly informed Lin that she was trespassing, emphasizing that he could readily report her to the police. He also directly questioned why she was consuming his bread, to which she casually replied that she had inadvertently stepped on it, implying that if he was going to discard it anyway, she might as well eat it. She further explained that despite her unauthorized entry, she had not attempted to steal anything at all. She merely observed that the door was open and entered solely to retrieve Lena, and feeling hungry, she took a bite of the delicious bread. Subsequently, she earnestly begged him not to report her to the authorities. He then fixed his gaze upon her with intimidating, scary eyes, and she was visibly frightened by his intense stare. Following this, Lena moved closer, deliberately making friendly physical contact with him, and proposed that she could offer an apology on Lin's behalf. She asserted that Lin was fundamentally not a bad kid, but she admitted that her friend was simply not very adept at expressing apologies. She then very earnestly asked him to please forgive her for the transgression. Lena leaned in even closer, her voice soft and persuasive, to ask him kindly for his forgiveness. He responded by looking away, his face visibly blushing due to her close proximity and the situation. And, still averting his gaze, he stated that since they were all neighbors, he could let the incident slide, internally acknowledging that he simply couldn't bring himself to say anything truly harsh or negative directly to her face. He then turned his attention to Lin, pointedly stating that he was going to discard that bread because it had already passed its expiration date. This revelation immediately triggered an alarm of concern in Lin. She then asked, with a hint of confusion, if that wasn't pizza bread, and upon closer inspection, she finally realized that it was, in fact, a cream bun, which explained why it had tasted like such a strange kind of bread. Lena then interjected into the conversation, remarking that they hadn't yet properly introduced themselves to each other. She expressed her strong desire for them to get to know each other correctly and formally. Following this statement, she deliberately took off her overshirt and then calmly placed it on the floor beside her. Looking at him playfully over her shoulder, she declared that there was something she had been wanting to do for a while. This unexpected action caused the protagonist to blush profusely, his face turning a deep shade of red. She then directly asked him for his thoughts on the matter, inquiring what he thought of her actions. And, with a playful gesture, she touched her lips, clearly indicating that she was already contemplating something fun. The protagonist, utterly bewildered by the unfolding events, genuinely wondered what the heck was happening. Then, in the very next moment, both girls were enthusiastically engaged in playing Circle Fit, which was the equivalent of Ring Fit Adventure in this world. This was the activity she had wanted to try, and they were being incredibly loud while doing it. There was an image displayed, illustrating the gameplay of that particular game. Lena was visibly giving her absolute all in the game, exerting maximum effort, and the protagonist was simply observing, internally thinking that he hadn't actually expected anything different or less from her energetic personality. The view from his perspective was quite cool to witness, despite the unexpected nature of the situation. But then, his attention was drawn by the distinct sound of someone knocking on the door. He proceeded to go and see who it was, simultaneously wondering if it might be one of the other neighbors who had come to complain about the excessive noise they were making. He then opened the door. Se-young immediately grabbed him by the shirt and, without hesitation, called him a meddler. She then lifted him off the ground with surprising strength and demanded to know the whereabouts of the other girls. She then sternly warned him that if anything untoward were to happen to them, she was going to do something very bad to him. Following her threat, she loudly called out their names. She then saw Lena actively playing the game, and Lin was sprawled on the floor, declaring that she couldn't do anything more because she was already completely exhausted. Se-young was visibly surprised by this sight, as she hadn't anticipated them being engaged in playing video games. The girls then offered their apologies to the protagonist, who, in his mind, was still processing the fact that he had been almost choked. Lena then directly told Se-young that she should apologize as well. Se-young initially resisted, but Lena sternly scolded her, insisting that she should explicitly say, "I'm sorry," to the protagonist. Then, after enduring some additional scolding from Lena, she mustered all the strength she had within her. But then she suddenly shouted that he was the one who had looked at her first and, in a fit of anger, called him a lunatic. This outburst visibly surprised both Lena and Lin, and Lena immediately asked Se-young what was wrong with her and if she had lost her mind, then quickly told the protagonist that Se-young must simply be shy, and that was the sole explanation for her behavior. However, the protagonist stated that he hadn't expected her to apologize at all, given their previous interactions. He firmly declared that she had called someone she had just met a kid, and then proceeded to enter his house and almost choked him. He wanted to get some things straight regarding the situation. He explicitly stated that she was partially undressed, and if she had a tendency for undressing in public, then he was not the meddler in this scenario. She was. She asked, "What?" while her face took on a gloomy, menacing look, and he internally thought that she looked genuinely scary. She then pinned him against the wall with force and curtly told him to forget it. She then stated that he had complained about her smoking habits and suggested that they should put an end to their dispute once and for all. She then argued that she was smoking in her own house, so there was no reason why she should do what he said, especially since it was not illegal. She sternly told him not to cause any more trouble. He looked at her, thinking that he was very scared right now, but he was already utterly tired of her turning his house into a smoke-filled room. He then retorted that her stance was ridiculous. He asserted that predators never remember what they did wrong and emphatically stated that she had no shame. He argued that someone might mistakenly think he was the one smoking, and that living there was incredibly painful solely because of her. He told her that she should be apologizing to him, and yet she still wasn't. He then declared that if she continued smoking, he would assemble a committee or officially report this matter, but then she interrupted him, saying that he was getting too close, but he asked why that was important or relevant to the discussion. Then, Lena interrupted the escalating argument by holding his hand. She then commented that the smoking was indeed a problem, but as neighbors, they shouldn't fight, and proposed an alternative solution. He asked what that solution was. She suggested that if Se-young agreed to smoke outside, then they, Lena and Lin, could come to his apartment anytime they wanted. Se-young immediately got angry and stated emphatically that Lena should not be making decisions on that matter. Lena then explained their living situation, stating that they had no Wi-Fi, no air conditioning, no computer, and nothing else. She even mentioned that their washing machine was broken, and she reminded Se-young that because of her actions, they were at risk of getting kicked out at any moment if she caused any more trouble. Lin then added that if they were indeed kicked out onto the streets, she had nowhere to go. Then, after thinking about it for a moment, Se-young conceded that it wasn't like she was trying to torment him on purpose. She then looked at him, and he, in turn, averted his gaze from her. She then admitted that it didn't sound like a bad idea, while Lena was openly celebrating the potential agreement. The protagonist, meanwhile, silently wondered if he didn't have a say in this, as it was, after all, his house. He then considered the situation and thought that this arrangement was ultimately for the better, as it effectively solved the persistent problem of the smoke. He also thought that they wouldn't come very often, and since they were neighbors, he could very well get to know them better through this arrangement. Lena then declared that since nobody had said anything in objection, it was a definite yes. She then stated that they had better introduce themselves properly, as they would be seeing each other often from now on. She introduced herself as Lena Fox, stating that she was 23 years old. This surprised the protagonist, because Fox sounded more like a nickname than a formal surname. She explained that her mother was Korean and her father American, which was why she had such a unique name, and currently, her parents were abroad. She also pointed out the fact that her eyes were blue, and told him that he could simply call her Lena. She then stated that the, quote, girl's name was Se-young Na, and she appeared cold and unfriendly. But, Lena added, she had the, quote, best strong presence of all. This comment enraged Seyoung, but caused the protagonist to turn red with embarrassment. Lena then proceeded to introduce Lin, describing her as the baby of the group, and the protagonist, in that moment, wondered when she had managed to take the ice cream out of the fridge. Lena then mentioned that they actually had one more housemate, but she wasn't currently there because she always worked overtime. She then held the protagonist's arm, stating that it was enough for introductions, and asked him if he was going to introduce himself. Holding his arm even tighter, she said that she wanted them to become better friends. He stated that he was Gang-chan and was 27 years old, adding that he hoped they would get along well. She then asked, in a mocking tone, if he was indeed older than them. Then, Seyoung realized with a surge of anger that Lena was clearly trying to make him pay her bills. Lena continued to hold him, looking at him with a friendly gaze, stating that she was, quote, just trying to make friends with him, while Seyoung, disgusted, told Lena to wipe that silly look off her face. Then, looking at him as if deeply in love, Lena told him that he could be more comfortable with them from now on, while he internally thought that she was scary, but for a very different reason than Seyoung. That's how he ultimately ended up accepting the deal. He initially thought that they wouldn't be there every day. They would just come a few days and then never return again. But he was wrong. They came every single day to play video games. They would come to watch him playing while enjoying manhwas and various snacks. They even came when he was doing other things, and he even gave them his passwords. His house and his fortune were no longer truly his. They now belonged to the three girls. It had become their regular meeting spot. He deeply regretted having accepted them in. But then, one day, something significant happened. It was a day when he had just finished working. He was in the process of returning home. He was already completely fed up with everything that had transpired and all the overtime he had performed. Those three girls came to his place every single day, and that constant presence had completely overwhelmed him. Just to get one day of rest, he had to leave his job early on the day they said they weren't coming, and he couldn't go back on the promise that was already made. But today was his own day. The day when he could finally rest from those three energetic companions who were draining his life. He planned on watching movies all day and playing some video games, just what I do every day, actually. He opened the door, determined to enjoy some time alone. But there she was, Seyoung, as if God had brought her to Earth. He wondered what on earth she was doing there and turned completely red from looking at her like that. She then threw him her towel and told him to look the other way. Later, inside his room, he was watching the computer screen while she was sitting on the bed. He thought that this situation was awkward. He hadn't expected to find her like that the exact moment he opened the door. He was informed that she was going to go to the gym today. This situation completely ruined his plans. He thought that it would be a good idea to apologize to her so that everything could be in a better mood. He then gathered all his courage again to offer his apologies. But while he was thinking that, she got closer to him and demanded him to get lost, saying that his face made her want to punch him, so it would be better for him to just leave. He replied that this was his house. She responded that she was there first and got even closer. Then she asked him if he wanted to spy on her again and called him a nuisance. She then said that she couldn't stand to be in the same room with a nuisance, so he should just get lost. He interrupted her, saying that his logic didn't. She interrupted him before he could finish the sentence and told him that he was having a difficult time hearing her because he was short. This deeply touched a nerve on the protagonist. He then proceeded to stand up and ask her what she had said. He then proceeded to scold her, telling her that if she didn't like him staying in his own house, then she should leave, and that he hadn't looked at her because he wanted to, and that it was her fault for walking around like that in a man's house. She told him that she was just someone who liked to show off. She twitched her teeth in anger when she heard that, and was about to strongly reprimand him on the spot. This scared him, but she held back, clenching her fist. She then calmed down. But he told her that he was older than her and she should show him some respect. This enraged her even more because she didn't want to. She then took out a pack of cigarettes, saying that he hadn't told Lena nor Lin to do that. She then proceeded to put the cigar in her mouth, saying that he was annoying. Gang-chan noticed this. He then hurried up and asked her what she thought she was going to do in his house, then tried to reach for the cigar, but she raised her hand so he couldn't reach it. His face was so close to her chest. This gave her an idea. She asked him what the matter was, while flicking her hand. She said that she thought he was going to try to take it. Asked him how he planned to take the cigar out of her hands, and asked him what he could do. She then placed the cigar in the middle of her chest, saying that from that height, he had it easier. He then turned away, confusing her. He then told her that this was the reason she didn't have a boyfriend. This exploded within her as if a nuclear bomb had detonated. This enraged her, asking him how he could say something so ridiculous. He said that he could bet that she had never held a boy's hand nor had a date. This was like a home run on her, with her head being the ball. She clenched the cigar box, asking him how he dared to say such nonsense about her. He got a bit worried about her anger. She then pointed at him, stating that surely he had never done that before either, for being short. After that, an awkward silence filled the room. He pointed out that he had done that before, which surprised Seung. He said that he just guessed, but wasn't sure that she really didn't have any experience with men, and all her teasing actually didn't mean a thing because she was no better than him. She said that he was lying, and she told him to stop acting like a snob, adding that he didn't even know how to interact romantically with a girl. She then proceeded to state that nobody would ever engage in such an act with a man who looked like a kid, a comment that deeply enraged him. He then swiftly took her by the wrist, and, with a determined motion, he positioned himself over her on the bed, emphatically stating that if she continued to call him a kid every single time, then she would soon discover what this so-called kid would truly do. She responded with a smirk, remarking that she was curious what he was attempting to do, whether he intended to wrestle her or something else, and confidently added that he would never be able to intimidate her. He firmly ordered her to stop calling him a kid, but she defiantly replied that she called him a kid precisely because he acted like one, and then challenged him again, asking what he was going to do about that. She further provoked him, telling him that if he was truly upset about being called a kid, then he should prove to her that he was not one, and she openly admitted she didn't have high hopes for him after all. What, she implied, could a mere kid possibly do? He was fully prepared to teach her a lesson, ensuring she would never dare to call him a kid ever again. Then, unexpectedly, she blushed, because he then proceeded to kiss her. The kiss lasted for a considerable duration. She was left utterly bewildered, internally wondering, what the heck just happened? She was genuinely surprised that he had actually gone through with it. After some time had passed, they slowly separated, bringing the kiss to an end. He then pulled away from her, sternly telling her to stop teasing him from now on. Her breath seemed to be paused in her chest. She stood perfectly still, seemingly unable to move or react. He looked at her and observed her frozen, unmoving face. She was in a state of complete shock from that kiss, while he internally thought that his revenge was now complete, and she would surely respect him a little from this point forward. He then casually waved his hand in front of her face to see if she would display any reaction whatsoever. He began to wonder if the intensity of the kiss had been too much for her to handle. He allowed a slight smirk to form on his lips and pondered if he should seek even more payback for himself today. Then he spoke. He stated that he knew this was her first time, but he was still somewhat disappointed, and then mocked her by saying that the great Mappo Grizzly had been knocked down by just one kiss. He then continued to mock her a bit more, suggesting that he should have gone easier on her during their encounter. He then asserted that the kid between them was not him, and she should cease trying to act tough in front of him now. But then, she unexpectedly said that he made her laugh. She defiantly lifted her middle finger and retorted that even a 10-year-old could do that, referring to the kiss. She confidently bet that he had only watched romance tutorials and practiced kissing himself, because in her words, that kiss sucked. She then added that she was being generous by even suggesting that someone might be willing to kiss him, but implied he would only experience a couple of kisses in his entire life. And then she provocatively asked who would ever consider that someone as weak as him was a man, while deliberately touching him with her foot. He swiftly slapped her foot away. He then moved close to her face once again, and told her that she was acting incredibly tough when she had been frozen with just one kiss. She retorted that she wasn't acting tough, she was simply telling him the truth. This unexpected response startled Gang Chan. He then concluded that there was no point in talking to her further, and he stood directly in front of her, telling her that even a kindergartner has kissed someone, and he had actually done her a favor by being her first kiss in her life, and instead of being thankful, she was berating him. He then firmly affirmed that no man would ever be interested in her romantically when she was so rude and uncivilized. She was momentarily unable to say a thing in response to his harsh words, until she finally managed to retort that he was just talk. He then realized that something inside his pants was betraying him by moving unexpectedly. She then accused him of being a nuisance again because of all the things he had just said, claiming that all she did was play along, but he got too excited. He then tried to hide his embarrassment while stating that he couldn't control that, but she thought that was just nonsense. To her, he was merely a snobby kid who was trying to prove his worth when he got flustered easily. He then retorted that she was in no position to say that, because she was already flustered. He then mocked her, saying that he would need to wash his bedsheets all because of her. He asked if she was already like that, just for a kiss. She tried to cover herself and asked him what he was talking about. He said that she was acting tough, but surely she just wanted someone to be assertive with her. She kicked him, but not before calling him short again. He rolled on his bed in pain from the impact of that kick. After recovering from the blow, she told him to stop getting on her nerves because she could easily beat him up with only one hand. He retorted that she always tried to resolve everything with violence, that she looked down on people weaker than him and attempted to rule over them by force. But, he added, none of that mattered as long as she was a woman. She wouldn't be able to do anything if his assertiveness made her feel good. This statement exploded in her mind and caused her face to blush with anger, a powerful combination of emotions. She then threw him her shirt, declaring that he was just talking nonsense. Then they began a wrestling session so he could be her wrestler. In the middle of that training session, she remembered her time in high school. Women were talking of their experiences, saying that it was not anything special, so Seyoung believed them. But none of that was true in that moment. But then Seyoung's phone rang. It was Lena, but she didn't hear it because of the wrestling session. Then they kept wrestling for a long time, until it was already night. On her cell phone, she had 8 missed calls, but they didn't know, because they both were already knocked out from all that wrestling match. Even after that, he asked her if that was all she's got. He was proud of what he did. He already showed her that she had to respect him. She, in the process of this match, didn't want to admit it, but she was completely under him. He was pointing to the fact that she's been calling him short all this time. He was enjoying the taste of victory and asked her if she would stop now all the teasing towards him. But she told him to not get conceited. It was already 10:38 p.m. They'd been wrestling for about 2 hours now. He had to wake up early tomorrow to go to work, and now he was going to be tired and with aches from all those attacks. He couldn't feel his back right now. He felt like a zombie. On her side, she was sleeping soundly, as if nothing had happened. He wondered what he should do now. They fought each other all day without thinking about the consequences, and he just won against the most challenging of them all. After being lost in thoughts, he realized something. Lena was watching them. All the disaster of the fight. He wondered when she came, and what she was thinking. Silence enveloped the room. She just stared at him, at how they fought while looking a bit disheveled, and closed the door immediately. She was dazzled, wondering if what she just saw was real or just her imagination. She wondered what the heck had happened. She couldn't believe that Seyoung and Gang Chan just had their first wrestling match together. However, it was a new day. Yes, it was. And Seyoung was trying not to be noticed coming out of Gang Chan's house. She walked with her tiptoes while barefoot. But there in the corner were Lena and Layun waiting for her. She jumped from the fear of seeing them there, asking her where she was yesterday and why she didn't pick up her phone all day. They asked why she stayed out of the house today, if she never had done that before. This was so suspicious to them. With a mischievous look, they wanted to know what her excuses could be, why she was sweating, and why she was this quiet, they asked. Lena got closer and asked her to tell them the truth, and the truth only. They said that they already had their suspicions of what she had been doing, but they wanted her to say it. Seyoung pretended not to know what they were talking about. She said that she worked out all night in the gym. Then she said that no guys had ever wanted to be with her, so that was not a possibility here, and asked them if they had someone to introduce to her. Lena made a playful gesture with her hands, like asking for a pencil sharpener. But Seyoung said that she didn't have one. But Lin smelled her, saying that her aroma could tell her what she had been doing all night, but Seyoung said that it was just sweat. Then she managed to escape, going into her house and slamming the door on their faces. They both seemed speechless, but Lena had something planned, and she was going to get whatever she wanted right now. On Seyoung's side, she was all red, and with her heartbeat at its maximum. Then she remembered how in school the guys always said that nobody would want to be with someone like her. She always heard how they pointed out all of her defects, like looking tough to the point that it was better being gay than going out with her, her temper and strength like a bear, and looking like a gorilla. They always said that she was strong, she was not graceful, and she was just brute. All this made her very sad, thinking that she could never in her life get a boyfriend, making her always clench her fist in anger, unable to do anything to fix her situation. Back to the present, she still thinks that all of this feels unreal. She cannot believe yet that she got into a lively exchange with someone and was relieved that she was not just tough after all, then tried to convince herself that wrestling was not that special while touching her parts where the aches were. And she cannot believe that her first wrestling match was with someone so skinny and weak like him, Gang Chan the protagonist. Every move he did to her came to her mind. All of her body wanted to practice even more moves. But then she shook her head, thinking that that was enough, and was frustrated that a short person like him treated her like a toy at something she had to be better at. The best of all time, the last real champion, the game, the heartbreak, the master of wrestling moves, the chosen one. She was decided to get her revenge one way or another, while hearts seemed to draw in her eyes, and her heart was racing for all the mix of feelings she was having right now. The next day, someone was gossiping in the office. They were saying that a team leader got sacked for embezzlement. They were saying that even the cops got involved, also made fun of the situation in various ways. Probably the responsible was a woman who was fired from her previous work because she had an affair with a married man in her team. Gang Chan heard all the gossip while he was working, and broke a pen in frustration. He asked to himself what he should do, while a Shinigami was looking at him, looking for apples. He could not stop thinking of Lena, seeing how he had all with Seung. He thought that she had recorded it all and was scheming something against him. The thoughts were dominating his mind, how this was going to change his relationship with Seung from now on, how Lena hadn't called since then, and if she had told everything to Lin. All of this made him feel so anxious that he could not focus on his job. He knew that he had to see them again today, and he had no idea on how to react when he saw them today. He was so frustrated, and whether he liked it or not, he had to see them again every day no matter what. He even screamed, "What am I going to do from now on?" Calling the attention of his companions, he even got a bit far off the desk while wondering what he was going to do. An old man asked him if he was having a nervous breakdown again, and told him that if that was the case, then he could go home early. Gang Chan said that he was okay, but the thought of what to do didn't leave his head. He started to feel dizzy. His only desire was to quit his job and leave. After some time, the workday was finally over. Then, on the door, there was a note that said, "My room, I'll kill you if you don't knock." Inside, there was a bunch of training equipment, and Seung was doing push-ups. She fell to the ground because she was already too tired to continue. She couldn't stop thinking about how Gang Chan won their wrestling contest last night. This entire situation truly annoyed her. She desired nothing more than to just get rid of him with her bare fists. She wished to do that so intensely, but it wasn't an option. She had to see him frequently, and it would become incredibly awkward from now on if she resorted to violence. Besides, she had more to lose than to gain, and it would look bad to beat up a small guy like him just for some wrestling. And if Lena and Lin ever discovered the secret, they would never stop mocking her for it. She looked at her phone, desperately searching for an answer to the question, what to do in this situation. Then she found something that was of particular interest to her. It suggested to challenge him differently and prevent him from winning easily. She angrily tossed her phone away, vehemently declaring that she would never do such a thing. Then she made her decision. She was going to get her revenge one way or another. Then, the scene shifts to Gang Chan's room. She entered and realized that no one was home. This was good for her, as she had an idea forming. She smirked, because she was about to do something truly mischievous. He was surely going to pay for humiliating the strongest woman in the world, the great Seung. It was too late to back down now, so she proceeded to get to work. She proceeded to tighten all the lids on every bottle in his room. She also loosened up all the light bulbs and bent all of his spoons. She also placed the remote control in the highest cabinet she could reach. She was truly mischievous, if you ask me. She also put all of his clothes under the furniture. All her mischievous work was done perfectly. She felt so good after a session of mischief, thinking that's what he gets for messing with her. She thought that this would be enough for her revenge. But then a bad feeling flooded her mind, thinking that she was being pathetic. She couldn't go any lower than this, doing some childish pranks to get revenge on a man who looked like a kid. So pathetic. Anyways, despite that thought, she still felt good for having her revenge served like that. Then she proceeded to hide under his bed, because she wanted to see his reaction, but her shorts slid down while she was trying to hide. She had a big build, and now she was stuck, unable to move under Gang Chan's bed. This enraged her, and she thought it was ridiculous. Then, Gang Chan arrived and immediately saw her under the bed. He was wondering what the heck was happening. He wondered what she was doing under his bed. He thought that maybe she was trying to make him wrestle her again, like last time. Then he considered that it was difficult for that to be the case. Even so, it was funny to find her like that. It was very unlikely, but here she was. Then she asked if the person there was Lena or Lin, but also asked if it was the shorty who challenged her. He then proceeded to touch her arm, saying that it was him, the arrogant shorty, and asked her what she had planned to do. Then he asked what she was doing. She looked like she was doing something funny, and he asked what her plan was. She thought that this situation was the worst, and cursed that it was him, of all people, who was looking at her in such a state. She remembered all the things she did to get her revenge, and now she was there. She thought that she didn't have to tell him that she was hiding to see his reaction after all she did. She would never say that. But what should she do? She had to think of something, and fast. She had to think about an excuse. But then Gang Chen was thinking the worst about her, that she wanted to be challenged again. After all, she had shown him that this was what she enjoyed. But she was cursing her actual situation because there was no way out anymore. She tried to get out, but she failed in every attempt. She was desperate because the worst was approaching. Then he explained that the bed kept shaking in the past, so he had nailed it down, making it solid like a rock. That's why she couldn't escape this time. She called him a crazy person for that. Then he proceeded to ask her why she was stuck there. She told him that he didn't care about that and to mind his own business. Then he asked her if she didn't understand in what situation she was in. Then he tickled her foot and asked her to tell him the truth. She couldn't bear it anymore and surrendered, asking him to stop and promising she would tell him the truth, then told him to check for himself. This raised Gang Chan's curiosity, and she asked him if he hadn't taken a look around his house already. Then he started to search around. He found the loose lights, the ruined spoons, the clothes under the furniture. That was his favorite jacket, and now it was ruined. He held the jacket to his chest, and she mocked him. She said that she wanted to hide there and see his reaction and how he was upset for all the mess she did, and said that this was what he got for provoking her. But then he tapped her in anger. She felt a lot of discomfort from that tap. He kept tapping her, ordering her to apologize. He ordered her to hurry up with the apologies and tapped her even harder. This, instead of making her suffer. She seemed to enjoy it, saying that she barely felt tickles. He was enraged and then prepared to do something even more drastic. He managed to get his revenge by toying with her, but this was not enough for her, because in the process, he didn't want to give her what she wanted and fell asleep. But she managed to free herself and threw him to the floor and forced him to do what she wanted, and he had no choice but to obey. After an intense night of wrestling, she, Seong, expressed an eager desire to continue their practice sessions. However, he, in his exhausted state, was already thoroughly beaten. Overwhelmed by fatigue, he succumbed to sleep, while she, feeling a surge of anger, attempted to rouse him. She desperately tried to wake him up, her need to practice even more evident, but her efforts proved useless. He was utterly incapacitated, unable to awaken from the profound knockout he had experienced. The transition from night to day was abrupt. The next day had already arrived, bringing with it a new set of circumstances. Upon regaining consciousness, he discovered a staggering 20 missed calls on his phone, all originating from the formidable department head. When he finally awoke, disoriented, he had no idea what time it was, adding to his confusion and sense of unease. An immense pain radiated through his back, signaling a significant discomfort. He suspected that Seong, in the fervor of their wrestling match, might have utilized a particularly potent submission move that had left him grievously injured. He felt as though he had been run over by a truck, rendering him utterly unable to even get up. A chilling realization dawned upon him. He could potentially be late for work. His gaze then landed upon a pack of muscle pain relief patches, lying conspicuously nearby. A fleeting thought crossed his mind. Seong must have been incredibly kind to have purchased these for him, demonstrating such consideration for his recovery. He was genuinely surprised by her thoughtful consideration. However, his quiet reflection was abruptly interrupted by a soft voice inquiring if he needed help with the patches. It was Lena, her face alight with visible happiness at seeing him finally waking up. The sudden appearance and voice of Lena scared him profoundly, sending a jolt through his already aching body. Lena, observing his startled reaction, casually inquired about his surprise, reminding him that they see each other almost every day. She initially assumed, based on the peaceful expression she perceived on his face, that he had enjoyed a particularly good night's sleep. But when he quickly told her that nothing happened, her assumptions were challenged. A wave of unwelcome thoughts washed over him as he wondered what she was doing there. He distinctly didn't want her presence in his room. Undeterred by his apparent discomfort, she then directly asked him what had happened. He reiterated his terse response, nothing, but it was clear from her expression that she didn't believe it for a second. Nevertheless, he proceeded to inform her that, regardless of their closeness, she absolutely had to knock before entering his room. She retorted that she did knock, but he evidently didn't hear her. With an air of defiance, she then admitted to having simply entered without his permission, and she said it as if she were proud of that transgression. He couldn't help but think that she was deliberately teasing him, convinced that she knew exactly what had transpired the night before. Lena then remarked that he must be feeling incredibly tired from whatever had happened yesterday, but quickly assured him that she didn't know the specifics of his activities. Despite her supposed ignorance, his own reactions to her seemingly innocent jokes were undeniably suspicious, betraying a deeper secret. She also took the opportunity to remind him that he was not at work today, emphasizing his unexpected day off. Furthermore, she pointedly mentioned the disheveled state of the room, drawing attention to the chaos around them. She then commented on the overall weird atmosphere that pervaded the space, hinting at something unusual having taken place. Continuing her observations, she subtly suggested that he might be the one responsible for all the mess, implying his direct involvement. It became clear that she had some guesses as to what could have possibly transpired within the room. He was consumed by a growing fear that she knew it all, and would inevitably make fun of him for his exploits. Adding to his apprehension, he was also afraid that she could misunderstand the true nature of his relationship with Seong. After all, he himself was still uncertain what they both were to one another, making the situation even more complicated. Consequently, he made a conscious decision to keep everything a secret, clinging to the slim chance that Lena wouldn't suspect more than she already did. His fear escalated to the point where he worried she might perceive him as a garbage of a man, and concluded that the best course of action would be to come clean later, when the time was right. Lena, amused by his grave demeanor, then laughed at him for being so serious. She asserted that he was an adult, and that, ultimately, what he was doing was completely normal, so he truly should not be ashamed of anything. She playfully asked if he was embarrassed, further prodding him, and then reiterated that if he indeed engaged in such activities, there was no reason to feel ashamed or anything like that. Lena then articulated her assumption of what he had done. Not wrestling with Seung, but merely training himself alone. A deep flush spread across his face as he got all red, utterly perplexed as to why she would say that. Feeling profoundly offended, he began to scream at her, vehemently denying that he had done any such thing. He secretly hoped that she hadn't suspected his actual wrestling session from the previous night. She calmly stated that he was inherently very shy and would never talk to a woman in that manner, thus making her previous guess the most certain one. Lena then continued to mock him a bit more, further intensifying his embarrassment and causing him to become even redder. At that point, he reached a stage where he didn't care anymore if she believed him or not. However, she then surprisingly declared that she trusted him completely. She then settled down near him and, with a nonchalant shrug, uttered, "Who cares?" Extending an invitation, she suggested that if he was feeling lonely, he could always go out with her. Lena then boldly claimed that they could wrestle better than he had the previous night, perhaps even surpassing a match for the world title. He felt his shyness reaching its absolute limit, wondering intensely what she was plotting by coming so disconcertingly close to him. The vivid image of her finding him wrestling with Seung flashed into his mind. He was now absolutely sure that she knew it all. He initially believed that she was going to make fun of him for his poor performance in the ring, but then considered that perhaps she had already forgotten it all, or more disturbingly, she was merely pretending to have forgotten. He found himself unable to know for sure what was truly coming to her mind, leaving him in a state of anxious uncertainty. His swirling thoughts were abruptly interrupted by her voice. She inquired if he wasn't planning on going to work today, conveniently adding that it was also her day off. Given their shared free time, she proposed that they should simply hang out together. He then cleared his throat, preparing to speak and articulate his refusal. He quickly got dressed and informed her that he had an abundance of things to do and was therefore very busy, inadvertently giving her the impression that he was a workaholic. However, as he moved, an immense pain flared in his back once more. He involuntarily fell back onto his bed, uttering Lena's name in a pained gasp. He then let out a frustrated curse, because he was completely unable to move. At that precise moment, his phone began to ring. He answered it, discovering to his surprise that it was his boss calling. He immediately apologized for his absence. To his astonishment, his boss reassured him that it was okay, proclaiming him the best worker in the world. The boss granted him the entire day off, confident that something significant must have transpired. He instructed him to take the day off and rest as much as he needed, assuring him that others would handle all necessary tasks. Of course, Lena, having overheard the entire conversation, became incredibly excited by the news that he wouldn't be working today. While he wasn't particularly thrilled about the unexpected day off, Lena, on the other hand, felt all the happiness in the world surge within her soul. With a flourish, she then tossed out his uniform, declaring that he wouldn't be needing it for the day. He, however, simply lied down, stating his intention to sleep all day. While a full day of sleep sounded appealing, given how tired he had been, and his desire to simply close his eyes for the rest of the day, he also had to acknowledge the looming presence of housework and other obligations. But before he could dwell on his chores, Lena gently held his shoulders, remarking on how stiff they felt. With a mischievous smile, she informed him that she was going to perform a massage on him to help him feel better. He instinctively declined, stating that there was no need for that. Yet, she insisted, proclaiming herself an expert in massage, casually mentioning that she often massaged Yunda and Seung. The unfamiliar name sparked a sudden question in his mind. Who is Yonda? Undeterred by his question, she nonetheless began a rather weird massage designed to alleviate his discomfort. During the process, she subtly, yet pointedly, mentioned the wrestling session he had with Seung. At that precise moment, he became absolutely certain that she knew everything. She then proceeded to directly ask him how it was, referring to the wrestling match. She questioned his surprise at her knowledge, asserting that she believed he already knew that she was aware of the wrestling sessions. A knowing smirk played on her lips, clearly demonstrating that she had merely been pretending not to know all along. He found himself completely under her scrutiny now, trapped and exposed. He realized with a jolt that if he uttered the wrong words now, he would be screwed for life. She calmly told him to simply relax. She clarified that she was merely curious to know what he felt during the wrestling match. He, however, was rendered speechless. He didn't know what to say. She then pressed further, inquiring why they had kept it a secret and, more importantly, what they were to one another in terms of their relationship. Her questions continued, as she eagerly asked him what he had done to win against the strongest woman in the world, expressing a genuine desire to know his secret. While awaiting his response, she took out her phone. Simultaneously, she continued her interrogation, asking him if he harbored any regrets about the previous night. He firmly stated that he had no regrets. She then countered, telling him that if he had no regrets nor felt guilty, then he simply had to tell her what he did. She expressed her doubt that they were genuinely in love with one another, suggesting something more out of the ordinary. He vehemently negated that idea. He admitted that they had nothing planned, but explained that the atmosphere had simply gotten weird, and the wrestling session had just happened, and she had already witnessed it. He confessed that they hadn't consumed any alcohol, and both of them had agreed to the wrestling. He emphasized that she was the one who started it, implying that if she thought he was the bad one in the scenario, she was wrong. He let out a faint laugh, a nervous tremor in his voice. Lena, however, firmly believed that there was no way he was telling the entire truth, and she could see that he would never tell her willingly. A fleeting memory of Seung's expression crossed her mind, and she couldn't help but wonder, how did a skinny and weak man like Gang Chan manage to face her? Seung had always adamantly stated that she would never wrestle against someone weaker than her. There seemed to be no rational explanation for this situation, as Seung was never easily impressed. Lena pondered what his special method could possibly be, given that there appeared to be nothing special about Gang Chan in Seung's eyes. To Lena, they simply didn't even look good together. This whole affair was rapidly making her more interested than she had anticipated. He abruptly interrupted her, urgently asking her to get off his back because her weight was beginning to increase the pain. She immediately apologized and complied, moving off him. The clock now showed 12:04 p.m. She then carefully applied the medicine to his back, offering some much-needed relief. He admitted that wrestling her had been incredibly painful, and his back still hurt considerably. Despite the discomfort, he confessed that it might have simply been a mistake, but he felt no sorrow about that particular mistake. He then told her that she was free to think whatever she wanted. All he desired was to simply sleep. However, his resolve was quickly challenged by something that profoundly impressed him. She boldly sat over him once more and, with an intriguing glint in her eye, told him that she had a better idea. They should have fun outside. After all, the weather was pleasant, making it an ideal day for them to go out on a date and enjoy some good food. This, she reasoned, would prevent him from getting bored at home. He feebly protested, reminding her that his back hurt and he simply wished to sleep. But then she challenged him, asking if, despite his perceived bravery, he wouldn't accept a date with her. She then reminded him that she was, in a way, responsible for bringing Seung and him closer, so he should not be so mean to her. She declared that she was not going to let him go until they both went out on a date. He felt an overwhelming wave of shame wash over him at her persistent actions. Left with no other choice, he reluctantly accepted the date. She then gracefully got off him and, with a triumphant smile, announced that she was going to dress up and that they would be seeing each other later. For him, it was an incredibly close call. He found himself getting far too excited by her propositions. While she was brimming with happiness, he, on the other hand, was left wondering why she would suddenly want to go out on a date with him. He was convinced she had to be plotting something. Meanwhile, she felt an intense thrill, eager to uncover what Seung saw in him. Later, Gang Chan arrived at the designated meeting place for their date. The outdoor temperature was surprisingly hot. Soon after, she arrived, immediately asking him if he was feeling hot. She produced 2 ice creams, handing one to him. And so, they proceeded to enjoy the hot day, trying to make the best of it. Despite the scorching weather causing his ice cream to melt on his hand, he continued to eat it. She, for her part, appeared to be thoroughly enjoying her ice cream. As he observed her, Gang Chan's suspicions grew. He thought that she was acting suspiciously. He simply didn't buy it that she would genuinely want to go out on such an exceptionally hot day. He simply stared at her intently while she was engrossed in eating her ice cream. He then noticed that she was consuming it in a remarkably weird way. A blush crept onto his cheeks because that particular manner of eating was indeed very peculiar. She, noticing his gaze, then asked why he wasn't eating his ice cream. He merely glanced at her in response. She then inquired if there was something on her face, prompting his prolonged stare. She warned him that his ice cream was going to melt, which finally spurred him to start eating. After they finished their ice creams, she found herself still wondering what had truly happened. From his outward appearance, there was nothing special about him. She found it hard to believe that Seung, who was so close to her, would fall for this guy. She concluded that Seyoung's preferences must have changed. While she didn't necessarily think there was something wrong with that, he was simply too normal for Seyoung. He wasn't the strong, masculine, or macho man she had always desired. Deciding against wasting any more time, she resolved to simply act on her instincts. She was on the verge of holding his leg, ready to make her move. But then he abruptly interrupted her, halting her intentions. He directly asked her why she suddenly wanted to go out on a date with him. She countered by asking if he didn't like spending time with her. He, ever polite, denied that question. He explained that he simply couldn't understand why she would want to go out in such hot weather, and directly asked if there was a specific reason for that. She confirmed that she had one in mind. She then, without hesitation, brought up what he had done yesterday, bringing the sensitive topic directly to the table. This sudden mention profoundly surprised him. She then audaciously lied on his lap and asked if he could do the same to her. He, flustered, asked why she wanted that. At this spectacle, everyone's gaze turned towards them, and whispers began to circulate, speculating that they were a couple and in love. Indeed, everyone turned their attention squarely on them. Even a nearby cat seemed to be watching with curious eyes. He, overcome with shyness, pleaded with her to get up. She, in turn, looked up at him, noticing his intense gaze upon her. And then, she proceeded to tease him a bit, further increasing his discomfort. She then began to finish what had dripped from her ice cream cone, an action that utterly puzzled him. Her movements were so swift and precise, it was almost like a rocket being launched. Startled, he then got up abruptly, causing her head to fall from his lap. He then declared that if she wasn't going to do something concrete, then they should just return home before it got any hotter. She responded with a light chuckle. Then, taking his arm, she asked where they should go for their date, still determined to continue. She knew that if she persisted with this line of inquiry, she would finally find out why Seyoung liked him so much. She simply looked at him as they walked, well aware that he was wary of her intentions. She was now fully decided to be bolder with him, determined to unravel the mystery of his appeal. So they're just walking along, and he's totally saying they should just head home. But she's like, nah, I'm having a blast. It's been ages since I just walked with someone like this. Then she throws it back at him. Wanna do anything specific today? He's kind of clueless because he hasn't been on many dates, so he tells her she should take the lead. She then says she owes him big time. Whatever he wants to do, they're doing it, even if it's wrestling. This totally throws him for a loop. He tells her to chill, don't mess with him. She just laughs, saying it's like a basic need. She's surprised how easily he blushes just by her saying stuff like that. He's clearly a total amateur at dating, and he's trying his best to put up with her teasing. She then tells him she's been doing some research and he needs to follow her. He's like, what research? She then drops the bomb. She did all that research because she's gonna be his girlfriend today. She even sticks her hand out behind her for him to grab. The mere thought of her being his girlfriend makes him blush like crazy. He's totally about to grab it. Just the idea of touching her hand makes him blush. While he's all flustered, she just goes for it and hugs his arm. She's super excited because walking like that, they look just like a couple. She asks if he doesn't like it, but he's just silent. Then she's like, let's just enjoy this date like we're a real couple. So they hit up different spots and take tons of photos. She's totally mesmerized by a dog walking by, but Gang-chan gets totally freaked out. He gets super tired climbing stairs because he's clearly not in great shape. And his sausage, the food, come on, even falls on the ground while he's eating it. Poor guy. He even falls when he tries to push her on a swing. What a klutz. She has to take care of him because he looks absolutely wiped. Then she just kind of looks at him for a bit. It's already dawn, and they're still walking, with him a bit ahead of her. Sipping an iced drink, she thinks to herself how crazy this whole day has been. They've been together all day, but she still can't figure out what makes him so special to Seyoung. She's thinking he's either super boring, or he's deliberately acting this way so she'll just leave him alone. I mean, Seyoung's mind is weird, right? Maybe she sees something in him that Lena just can't get her head around. This thought actually makes her head hurt. She wonders if she just wasted her whole day, and if she should have just gone to work instead of this boring date. But then, something totally grabs her attention. He suddenly protects her from getting wiped out by a couple on a scooter who are too busy looking at their phones to notice her. He's super relieved she's okay and immediately asks her if she's alright. This makes her blush, and she says she's fine. All thanks to him. But then she points out he's still holding something else. Oops. He quickly pulls his hands away, apologizing like crazy and saying it was just an accident. He turns away in shame because he can't even look her in the eyes after that. She tells him it's fine though, he was just trying to help, so he shouldn't worry about it. Then she's deep in thought. Even though he's been super clumsy and awkward all day right then, he was actually acting pretty manly. But she still thinks that's not enough for Seyoung to fall for him. Then they both notice her drink fell, getting her blouse all wet. And her ankle got hurt, but she says it's okay. Still, he makes her sit down and tells her to wait, saying he's gonna go get her some medicine. She thinks that even if he's a bit of a klutz, Right now, he feels surprisingly reliable. She then gets totally lost in thought about him. But someone's watching her from afar while she's wondering what she's gonna do about her sore ankle. Will she even be able to get home safely? Then that mysterious person came close and told her that she looked like she was injured. It was a tall and strong man, asking her if she needed his help. Meanwhile, Gang Chan was walking out of the store. He was relieved that he could buy the medicine before it ran out. But then he dropped the bag. The man wanted to force Lena to go with him to her home, but she said that her boyfriend was coming. Well, he took that as a joke. She was not joking. She wanted him to go away, but he insisted. Then the protagonist arrived and took his hand to make him not bother her anymore. Lena was surprised for his bravery. He said that he didn't seem to be her friend, so he couldn't drag her with him like that. He looked at him with a gloomy face. Gang Chan tried to be polite and solve all with dialogue, because he wouldn't win a fight against him. But then the man called him midget, saying that he could not possibly be her boyfriend. He pushed Gang Chan away, saying that he would punch him in the face, also said that he would have 0 chances to be with someone as beautiful as her. Then he asked her for her number, also saying that he didn't ask for it to anyone, she didn't want to. Then Gang Chan called his attention, took him from the shirt, and told him that he was no one, and he had to get lost and stop being a loser who doesn't leave her alone. Then he showed him the phone, showing him that he was about to call the police. This scared the tall man. Then left, complaining about the unlucky day and not getting the girl. This time, the protagonist really won for his bravery. He asked Lena if she was okay. She said that she was not okay, that she was thankful for his help, but he put himself in danger. That man could have beat him with 1 punch. She was worried, and with her heart racing, wondered what was happening with her. She was completely blushing, maybe in love with Gang Chan.